Hello everyone, I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lines TV. Welcome to a Chelsea Youth discussion. I'm joined today by Alex Goldberg, Joe Tweedie of course, and Sofian as well. Alex, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Nini. You may know me on Twitter at Alex Goldberg _. There's not much else I can plug other than I started my own YouTube channel, but Nini, you're the inspiration.
Too kind. Obviously, Joe, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, Joe Tweedie, I suppose infrequent guest on Nini's channel and occasional, but not very much at the moment, writer.
Perfect. And Sofian, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sofian, French guy who talk a lot about football. Let's say that.
Very secretive. Good. But anyway, you guys, yeah, I think the first topic to discuss is in regards to Christensen. Now, came out in the press earlier stating that he's not happy about this lack of game time. Now, obviously, Sofian, you've been telling everyone that, Sarri just doesn't favour him and his qualities just yet. What do you think about this whole Christensen situation?
Well, I think it was coming from a while. I think the fact that Sarri didn't really like his lack of physicality was a huge blow for Christensen. Also, I think that it's clear that for me he's not better than David Luiz. He is not better than Rudiger. We are playing in a back four that's not going to change a lot. Sarri is not very famous to rotate a lot his team, especially the back four. So I understand Christensen. Like I said days ago, I think he will leave this January. He has a link from Marseille interested in him for 6 months. They signed a centre back, but Rudy Garcia is not really happy with the guy Caleta, something like that. So Christensen might be moving to the Liga, I think.
That's interesting and a bit disappointing. And Joe, I mean, what's your whole thoughts as well? I mean, Christensen, everyone thought that he was only going to progress more and more. I mean, I thought last season he was very good. Yeah, he made a few mistakes, but I think for someone his age, especially when it was so intense under Conte, I thought he was very good. But what's your general thoughts?
It's a tricky one because, I mean, I think last season he kind of got into the team very much on merit in that sort of back three. And maybe you could say kind of the high profile mistakes that were attributed to him kind of thereafter. I think his form did dip a bit. And I would also say probably this season kind of maybe converting back to more of a traditional centre-half role in a back two. You know, I am a huge fan of him in terms of his ability, but I don't think necessarily that he's covered himself in glory. It's a really difficult one because I think the kind of sort of lapses that he's making, they would probably be excused for other players and probably have been in the past. I mean, I would look at, for example, someone like Rudiger, who I felt particularly last season, there was always kind of a mental lapse in there somewhere in terms of either it was giving away stupid free kicks or like overly kind of over aggressive kind of pursuit of the ball. And the few other things of him last season that I didn't quite get the sort of the complete devotion that Chelsea fans were showing him. I mean, apart from the fact, obviously, he's incredibly committed, which I do like about him. But this season, I think the commitment to him, and you could see the improvement. I think he's been really, really good. You know, not just in terms of sort of every aspect of play, his passing, his distribution. I think his all-round kind of defensive game has improved drastically under Sarri. And I look at someone like Christensen with such an incredibly high kind of ceiling in terms of his talent and potential. And I often kind of wonder, maybe why he isn't kind of given that same sort of license to maybe make some mistakes as he learns. But I think to what Sue was saying, I completely agree that sort of David Luiz has kind of rediscovered himself a bit. You know, there was a lot of people were kind of dismissing him kind of last season and maybe, I suppose, over the course of the summer and beginning of the season, people were wondering why Luiz had sort of, kind of come back into the team. But I think you just have to look at Sarri's kind of centre-backs at Napoli, Koulibaly and I always forget the other guy's name, but I mean, both very, very physically imposing players. You know, we're not a team that are blessed with physical players anymore. You look at our midfield, our starting midfield is it's what got the combined height of 5'5" between them. It's when we're not a big team, and the fact that if you put Christensen in there, I think particularly on set pieces, you've probably only really got Morata or Giroud, Alonso, and then the two, maybe one centre back who can actually defend. So
do you think it's more down to like he doesn't fit the system in that sense? That's
I think
why
so. Yeah, I think it's a little bit that he doesn't fit the system. But I mean, the problem that I have with his game at the moment is that particularly when he was at Mönchengladbach, he would. You kind of look at what he was doing there, particularly in possession. He would be the ideal Sarri centre back. He would bring the ball out from defence. He would play a lot of line splitting passes. He would beat the press with his ability on the ball. And yet at Chelsea, it's kind of like he kind of plays within his shell a bit. He's very safe. He's very kind of simple with his distribution. He doesn't take these kind of chances. So I think that I would also, I would want a bit more out of him as well when he kind of gets his chance. So it's a little bit on him. But in terms of his comments, I mean, he made them when he came back last time that he wasn't content sitting on the bench, and that's absolutely fine. He's 22. He's had a couple of seasons now where he's been pretty much a first choice player. So to go back to being someone who is considered a substitute, or not even really a rotation player, someone who just maybe is purely there to give someone a rest, is probably quite difficult for him. And I know, obviously, living in Denmark, the reaction has not been too fantastic towards Sarri and Chelsea for him not playing so much. So it will be interesting to see what happens to him again. Talking about him going on loan, he has just signed a new contract. We don't really have that many options, and I imagine someone like Gary Cahill will probably try and move away in January as well. So that would leave us with two centre backs or three if you include Ampadu, for example.
But I mean, when we were linked with when we were linked with guys like Rugani, for example, he was always going to affect what Christensen was going to do. Yes. What's your thoughts on that, Alex?
Oh, I actually just tweeted it maybe an hour ago. I'm so glad Chelsea did not go for Daniel Rugani, or at least didn't get him. Who knows if they truly went for him or not. But to me, Rugani was just, you were just acquiring Rugani because he had that relationship with Maurizio Sarri. So to me, Rugani is never going to be a great center back. Now, maybe that's unfair to say because he's still young and he's not starting at Juve because he's not good enough. It's because they got Bonucci back. But with that said, Rugani felt like it was just a gift for Sarri. It didn't really feel like it was the right move for the team. But in terms of Christensen, that wasn't going to benefit Christensen at all if Rugani had come in. But it's just kind of funny because the merry-go-round for Christensen's been rather unfortunate. And, you guys all talked about it. He has made a couple mistakes, and I totally agree with Joe. It almost feels like when he appears for Chelsea, he's trying not to make a mistake, and he's not really bringing out his full capability.
But to be honest, he hasn't really played as much too. I mean, the last game against Liverpool, the guy was ill too, so that was going to definitely affect his performance that day.
For sure. We could joke and say all he needs to do now is just speak out, which he has done, because once Cahill spoke out, now all of a sudden it feels like Gary Cahill is the third string center back. Well, now Christensen spoke out, so maybe Christensen can leave Cahill again. But it's just unfortunate because it feels like he did everything correct in terms of what a youngster is supposed to do to break through. He went to Mönchengladbach. He played well. He stuck out on that loan. He came back. Chelsea had a back three because of Antonio Conte, which was perfect for Andreas Christensen because he could pretty much play that same position. However, he had that one bad spell where he made a couple mistakes, and then Cahill came in for him. And then ever since then, as you guys talked about, Maurizio Sarri wanted to go with David Luiz for leadership, and he fit the system better. So I feel like it's just unfortunate for Christensen. But it just feels like that's how it goes at Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, even when it comes to like Christensen, a lot of people think that is down to David Luiz. That's the main reason as to why Christensen isn't in the team. Maybe I've got a different opinion, but for me, Luiz has always been our best defender. So I always saw him as the first choice defender regardless. So I've always seen Christensen's competition as Rudiger for the right hand side. But it seems like with Christensen is that lack of that aggression or physicality he has. I mean, I don't know. Again, in football sometimes it just comes down to manager preference. Maybe it might be a gut feeling. Who knows? I'm sure they don't base all their decisions based on footballing reasons. I'm not too sure, but I mean, it's not looking too great for Christensen because realistically, Sarri's not going to be rotating that defense very often this season. So Christensen knows that. So he's going to have to make a big decision now because again, the football he's played, he cares about his career. He wants to be a top player. That's always been his ambition. if he can't get the game time here, you know, it starts looking kind of worrying. And I don't think we can afford to lose this guy, because this guy will be in our defense for the next 8 years.
But the thing is that with Chelsea, everybody is thinking that Cahill is leaving in January. But if Chelsea has to make a choice between Gary Cahill and Andreas, they will move out Andreas simply because club will be paying for Andreas. There is nobody that will pay for Gary Cahill, not with his wage, not. I mean, Cahill is not stupid. He knows that if he signs for a club that's going to be Southampton, what's the best club that Cahill can get? I mean, surely he doesn't want really to leave. He just wants to put pressure to play the cup games, to play in Europe, something like that. So for me, I think that the one who is leaving is clearly Andreas, simply because Andreas can get Chelsea a few quid on a loan fee that Cahill can get.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty depressing to think about, to be honest. But it always just comes down to, you know, are you going to think about now? Or are you going to think about the future? And I think sometimes the club does need to put the future first a bit. I think sometimes there's too many decisions made on, you know, the short term. I don't know. I mean, I can understand why Sarri wants to keep that back four consistent, because, of course, the team needs to get used to his tactical ideas. But, I mean, I'm hoping that he starts to rotate a bit more, because I think that if we potentially lost Christensen because of this, I mean, who could really come to replace him? I mean, Luis might be his final season next year at the top before he decides what he wants to do. What if he doesn't get a new contract? I mean, we don't know just yet.